Hi, my name is Lee, and it is that time of year again when we talk about what we're going to read this year. So I thought I would quickly do a video of what I read this past year and what I'm going to read in the coming months. Alright, so I did succeed on some of these goals. Now I didn't get to the Art of Heraldry. Didn't happen. I think I did start it, I just haven't finished it yet. And I started the Moonstone and I got about 30% of the way through and I hated it. So I decided just to let it go. So we did not finish the Moonstone. We're not gonna finish the Moonstone, and that's okay. I read Fable Haven by Brandon Mull. Not my favorite new series. I'm not gonna continue with the series. Nothing specifically wrong with it. I just didn't resonate with it. And now, as an adult reading children's books, if I don't resonate with that at all, I'm just gonna move on. That's basically the story with a lot of the books, isn't it? And then I did finish reading The Picture of Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde. I really enjoyed this book, though I hated everyone in it, including the strawberries. And I am currently reading a Robin Hood retelling, but I haven't finished that either. 2023 was not a good reading year for me. Just in general, most of the books I did not like. I DNF'd a lot of books. With that in mind, I thought really hard about the books that I read last year. And by really hard, I mean I thought about it for like 5 minutes, looked at my shelves, and then went on with my new list of books that I want to read this year in 2024. My top 5 of the TBR. Let's go. First, I want to mention a couple honorable mentions in that I'm doing a buddy read with my very, very close friend that we are rereading The Lord of the Rings together. All 3 books this year. We're hoping to get through it in the first 6 months of the year. It might be longer than 6 months. Generally, I'm not a huge Tolkien fan. I don't want to scare anyone away from my channel by saying that. I'm not a hater. I'm just not a lover either. But my friend is a very huge Lord of the Rings fan. And so I agreed to reread the books with her, seeing it a little bit more from her perspective, maybe. But man, do I hate Tom Bombadil. I am having trouble getting through his stuff. My other honorable mention, just in case I don't get through other stuff, is one of the many Raggedy Ann books that I own that I haven't read. This one might not be the one I pick to read. I own probably 5 other Raggedy Ann and Andy adventures that I have not read. I'd like to get through at least one of them. Maybe. If something else doesn't pan out. Now we're on to the proper top 5 of 2024. Woo! One of my goals is to finish reading. I have started it, but knowing how last year went, I'm accepting this as an okay thing. I'd like to finish reading Vanity Fair by William Makepeace Thackeray. I watched the miniseries recently. I enjoyed it a lot. I kind of started reading the book while I was watching the miniseries. I'm about halfway through it. But it did take me like 3 months to get halfway through it, so I'm expecting it to take me the rest of the year to get through the second half. Vanity Fair is the story of Becky Sharp on her misadventures trying to become the richest woman in England and the greater part of Europe. I also then try to always put some nonfiction on my list. The nonfictions are always the ones that I tend to ignore. With this in mind, I decided to hedge my bets this year a little and pick out nonfiction written by my favorite author, Lloyd Alexander. This is Lloyd Alexander's first book, And Let the Credit Go. I actually don't know if it's technically nonfiction or if it's semi-autobiographical book, or if it is a fictionalized version of his own experiences, or if he just also worked in a bank and then decided to write a book set at a bank. But it is by my favorite author, and it is his first book. So I'm hoping that I will get through some nonfiction this year by reading this. I did put another nonfiction book on my list just because I felt like that was a little bit like cheating. So I put The Little Blue Book for Filmmakers on this list. I read bits and pieces of this book for fun, but I've never read the whole thing. It is a primer for directors, writers, actors, and producers. It's all about filmmaking. Now, I also always try to put a YA novel on my list. I'm not in the young adult age group anymore, but I also have a lot of YA still on my physical TBR, and I just want to get through them still. I picked out Curse of the Midnight King by Yakira Goldberry. This one is actually one I bought semi more recently than other books in the YA genre that I still own and haven't read. This is a retelling of the 12 Dancing Princesses with a Christian bent. I am a Christian. I generally like Christian fiction, but this one being a fairy tale retelling, when I'm very into fairy tale retellings, and Christian, I felt like this would be a good pick for this year. Lastly, I picked the sequel to one of my favorite books. I read the first book many years ago. It was one of my favorites the year I read it, and I never have gotten around to reading its sequel. So, the first book was Daddy Longlegs by Jean Webster, so I decided I would better read Dear Enemy, also by Jean Webster. Daddy Longlegs is a story told through letters between Jerusha and her daddy Longlegs. This is a series of letters sent to Jerusha from her best friend from the first book, and it's about her, and that's all I know about it. I'm very excited about it. I always like books that are told through letters that have doodles and other things throughout them. I feel like this could be a favorite of mine if I actually give it a shot. I have actually started it a couple times and just not finished it. We're gonna try. Those are my top 5 of the TBR for 2024. What are your top picks for this year? The books that you really want to get to before the year is out. Books where you just don't want to let another year slip by without reading them. Because, last year was a fail for me. But this year could be awesome if we let it, right? Thank you for watching. I hope you are having a wonderful day and are reading good books. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye. I'm so proud of you, batteries. So proud. Ugh, so proud. I know you're all applauding. I know. I am too. Just gonna throw that over there. For those of you who are not familiar with the booktube term, that means I did not finish it. I ain't gonna finish it. I don't want to finish it. I ain't gonna finish it. It's not happening.